Step 2, this was step 1, identifying your question and being clear that this is my question, this is my target group. Now step 2, identify your headings and subheadings. How do you identify your headings and subheadings? You identify what are the smaller questions that you need to answer in order to answer the bigger question. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you want to answer this bigger question, how to file a consumer complaint, there are some smaller questions and you need to find and identify those questions. And remember, I'm not saying I'm not talking about answers right now. I'm talking about only questions. You need to identify the right questions. Identify your headings and subheadings. Okay. For this, you may have to read up a little bit, not much, a little bit. Don't read everything. Don't read into great details at this stage. Read just enough. Maybe scan through material just to understand what are the smaller questions you have to answer in order to answer the bigger question. Okay. If your questions are good and relevant, your article will be good and relevant too. Remember, everything depends on the quality of the questions. If your questions are good and relevant at this stage, the questions you're identifying, there's a big question that you're answering in your article, but there are smaller questions within that, sub questions. And if those sub questions are good and relevant, your article will be good and relevant too. This is very critical step. Most people skip this step and they don't realize how important this step is. Okay. Most of the times there are already several articles on that topic, how to make it different. First of all, don't read those articles. Okay. Don't wait at this stage. Don't read all those articles. Don't bother. And it doesn't matter who has written what. You are going to write what needs to be written on this topic. Okay. And I'll tell you how to make it better, but you have to get all the questions. It doesn't matter who has written what. This is all irrelevant questions. Nobody has written what needs to be written. We have been writing for 10 years on ipleader's blog. Students are writing. I used to write earlier myself. Now students are writing. Now a lot of other lawyers are writing and publishing on ipleader's blog. And people who follow this method are always ranking on top, getting more readers than everybody else, because other lawyers don't follow. You think what I'm teaching you here, other lawyers follow this while writing? You are kidding. Not happening. This is only what we do. Maybe someday other people will start following, realizing how superior this is. But that is a few years away. Don't worry about it. Okay. I assure you nobody does this. You just go and do it. You will see the difference in results. So you identify the questions and make sure your questions are good and relevant. You don't have to compare with someone else. Don't even take idea from other blogs. You know what happens when you start reading other blogs? Then your mind gets restricted. You start writing about that only. You do not come up with your original question. You want to be good. You want to write original stuff. Think logically and come up with better questions, and you'll come up with better articles. Everyone who's worried about how to write better than everything that is out there, come up with better questions. What questions will a client have? What are their dreams? What are their fears? What are their pains? What are their worries? Think more about that and you will find out what to write. Okay. And if your questions are good and relevant, your article will be good and relevant too. Always ask people. This is another thing I want to teach you and I want you to keep in mind. Always ask people. Whenever you don't know the practical issues involved in a topic, ask someone. Ask people who are doing consumer cases. Ask people who are legal head of companies which are consumer facing, because they must be facing consumer cases. Ask them, what are your problems? What do you see? What happens? What are the practical issues? Talk to people who have already faced these kind of problems. Maybe there is somebody in your family who has filed a consumer case. Then what happened? What problems did they face? The more you ask people, you will learn more. Okay, this is how you write something original. If you follow these steps, you will end up writing something original. If you just go to other blogs, start reading them and start writing what they've already written, then you don't write original. But if you come up with the questions properly by thinking what is important and you do this work, talk to people, find out what are the real practical issues. Then you'll write something original. Okay. Call up lawyers who specialize in that subject and ask them questions. Try to understand what are the real practical issues they're facing these days. Call up your teachers and ask, maybe they might know something. Ask intelligent questions and learn real life practical insights, and then write those in a lucid, simple language. This is your strategy. Okay. Do you understand how to write original? This is what it is. You have to get to the heart of the matter. It's not like you're reading something and then trying to write better than them. No. You can read later, that can happen later. First thing is to independently think, what are the questions that are important about this topic, and write them down. Then go and talk to people. See what problems they are facing in real life. Talk to potential clients. Ask them what problems they have faced in real life. Then write those questions down. Those are the questions you need to answer. Okay. This is how I have been able to build a traffic, build a website or a blog where more than 2 crore people are reading it in a year. 2 crore people in a year reading a blog. It's huge. Okay. Doesn't happen easily. How did I do it? So you can really take my word for it. This is how you write original. Asking the right people is probably the quickest way to learn the real stuff, but it is also the most underrated legal research technique. Let it be your secret weapon. Okay. Cultivate a bunch of people you can call for information, insights and inside scoop. This is what journalists also do. This is a big asset for a legal blogger or a writer. Make Google your friend. Learn how to use it to find information. You need to be very good at Google search. If you're good at using Google, you don't really need any other research tool. You don't need Manupatra. You don't need Westlaw. Nothing if you're good at using Google. You can do more with Google than you can do with Westlaw. Method. First, create a structure. Give your article a skeleton structure. Okay, you write a skeleton of your article. The smaller questions you identify will become your headings and subheadings. Okay, very important. For instance, to answer the bigger question, how to file a consumer case, you have to answer these questions first. Just list down all the questions that come to your mind, right? So I'm showing you what can a business file a consumer complaint? What documents you need to be able to file a consumer case? Can you file it yourself or do you need a lawyer? These are the questions that people ask, you know, when they have the how to file a consumer complaint. These are the smaller questions that comes to their mind. Is it a good idea to argue your case yourself in the consumer court? How much time can it take to decide my case? These are the questions that comes to the mind of client when they're thinking of filing a consumer case. How much compensation can I get in my matter? Yep. And so on. Of course, there can be more questions. Think of a question or two by yourself. These questions will eventually become the headings and subheadings in your skeleton structure of your article. Okay. Step 3, make the skeleton structure. Write down all the headings and subheadings as a skeleton structure. It should look like something like this. I'm showing you how it looks like, right? This is a skeleton structure. You can see the questions I have written, right? Heading 1, this is a title, then heading 1, heading 2, heading 1, heading 2, heading 2, heading 1. So all these questions I have written down together. Now this is my skeleton structure. Do you realize what I'll do next once this is ready? I don't have, there may be more questions, right? I don't have to write all the question under the sun. I just have to write enough questions. Enough questions to write 2000 words. And I am afraid it is already too long. Then I already have this structure. Now I have to fill in all the gaps. I have to answer all these questions. For that, I will research and write. I'm just going to fill up all these gaps. There is no max words, guys. I told you, try to write at least 1500 to 2000 words. You write 5000, 10,000, it doesn't matter. Write more. Longer articles are preferred by Google. If it is rubbish, nobody cares. But if it is good, it will matter. Right? Before you write an article, you need to have this kind of a skeleton structure in place, which will make things immensely easier. It will cut down the time you need to research. It will cut down the time you spend on writing. You will not waste time. It will be so much easier once you do this.